Hello, 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 family. Peace and blessings, and welcome back to another episode of Heal with Angelica Waters podcast, where we discuss all things healing. And on today's episode, I have a special guest here with me today, Miss Jazmon Stewart. She is an agriculturalist and the founder of iThrive Dayton, which focuses on improving the quality of life for minority communities one garden at a time. Here
Absolutely.
with me today to discuss the topic, the healing powers of farming. Miss Thor, how are you doing today? I'm very excited to have you.
Me too. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, yes, yes. Again, I'm so happy to have you on here. This is going to be an amazing show. We're talking about farming, which is something that most of us don't even think about at all.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be very informational for those who are interested in learning more about farming. Now, before we get started, do you mind letting our audience know just a little bit more about you?
Sure. So my name is Jasmine. I am an entrepreneur and farmer here in Dayton. I currently teach youth gardening at Fairview Elementary as well as Kaiser Elementary. I love teaching agriculture and home gardening to the community. So I often, have community events throughout the year. I love to travel. I love to read. I love to engage with people. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yes, I love it. Praise be to Allah, sis.
Yeah.
So, now, I've learned that I looked into farming, looked more into farming and agriculture and gardening this past year. And I actually found out that farming is actually the engine to our national life.
Oh,
Now
yes.
that is huge.
Yes.
So farming and agriculture is the first profession that God actually introduced to man.
Mhm.
The gift from God to man is earth.
Yeah.
In Genesis 2:15, I have here it states, "And the Lord God took man and
Mhm.
put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it."
Yeah.
So we know just from our creator how powerful farming, garden, and
Yeah.
agriculture is to one's life.
Absolutely.
Um, as famine and inflation, as we know, is now at a all-time high,
Yeah.
it leaves us with no choice but to come together and start producing our own.
Yeah.
Um, as it has been studied, as it has been studied that the loss of ownership of lands
Mhm.
is actually 100% directed to the loss of health.
Yeah.
We are more dependent, and as you know, we
Yeah.
have been more dependent than ever before for
Yep.
someone else to feed, clothe, and shelter us.
Yeah.
I got this reference from The Time and What Must Be Done by the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Uh-huh.
And that brings me to my first question for you today, Miss Stewart.
Uh-huh.
Now, I would love to know what started your journey in becoming an agriculturalist.
So I've always kind of had a interest in plants. I grew up, the women in my family, they have always had a lot of plants. They've always had like planty homes. So I've always kind of been around plants. It wasn't until a little later in my life that the interest kind of became a priority for me. When COVID really started and we first start seeing how the grocery store shelves were becoming bare, that was an indicator for me that, hey, we need to figure something out. At minimum, we need to learn how to grow our own foods.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I believe that may have been the same year my boyfriend had got me a like garden kit for Mother's Day. So he got me like tools and garden pots and all these things. So I'm like, okay, I can't just be talking about it no more. Like I have everything I need. Let me actually get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I experimented a little bit, which was great. I started having my kids come outside and grow with me, which was great. At the end of that summer, I think I was probably like including my extended family at this time. Like, hey, I got these color greens. Let me just give y'all some so y'all can grow, whatever. And then, no, you know what? At the same time, Louisiana State, they had offered a program to the community because it was COVID and everything was closed down. They had offered
Mm-hmm.
a free home gardening program.
Oh
Took
wow.
advantage, yeah, right. So I took advantage of the program. I ended up getting my certification. So my certification certified me to be able to teach home gardening. Shortly after that, CSU and the city of Trotwood threw a program out to the community. Hey, if anybody would like to learn about farming and agriculture, we'll teach you everything. We'll give you land to grow on. We'll give you the tools, the seeds, everything. Just show up. I applied for the program, ended up getting accepted. And what's crazy, I just checked my emails this morning. I'm actually about to get my like 1 year training certification from that
Wow.
program. Right. So, but once I started with the farming program, I kind of started going further down the rabbit hole of agriculture. Then I started looking into livestock. Then I ended up getting chickens. Like now I'm selling eggs and stuff. So for me, I really am like, I really am a lifelong learner. And I realize like whenever I get interested in something, I really just keep going further and further and further and further down the rabbit hole.
Mm.
Yeah. And even since I'm thinking about even since the farming program, I've probably joined so many other programs, that I'm probably still even in right now. Not even probably, I am in.
Yeah.
I recently joined an environmental leadership program. So I've been learning a lot about environmental racism and things like that, which again is just another extension of agriculture.
Hmm.
Um, I'm so curious. I'm so curious about agriculture, and I just keep finding myself learning more and more and more. And the more I learn, the more I do. So
Yes,
that's where I'm at
yes.
now with it.
Wow, I love it. I love it. It just seems to me like you had this sparking idea and then you didn't have no choice but to get into it.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, it did kind of start out as, I guess, a necessity in a way, but also the more I talk to my family, like I was talking to my grandfather one day and he was telling me about my great grandmother and, just other people in the family. He was talking about how skilled farmers they were. So it was like,
Yeah.
okay, like this has been in me this whole time. It just, like you said before when we were talking, sometimes it takes for you to go through certain things for you to really like figure out what is what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be doing it and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of always been there, honestly.
Yes, yes. See, I had actually found out that you know, back in the olden days,
Right,
I
right.
guess we done forgot about them days, but our ancestors were farming. That's
Yes.
what they did. That's what,
Yes.
but as time progressed, we stopped
Convenience
the
took over.
exactly,
Convenience took
convenience
over.
took over.
Yep.
Convenience, yeah, definitely convenience took over, and also the lack of support and the
Yeah.
fact of the younger generation not knowing much about it.
Yeah.
So when the older generation was dying off, they couldn't really leave it to the younger generation because they didn't know
Exactly.
what they were doing. So it
Exactly.
ended up just wiping out and forgetting about farming in general.
Yeah, you're
So,
right. The older generation didn't quite have anyone to pass the baton off to in a way.
hmm,
And there's been so much like when I talk to people, they're always like, "Hey, what made you want to get into farming?" Like it's such a not an odd thing, but like it wouldn't be of interest, but it's like there was a point in time where everybody grew their own food. Like it
yes,
wasn't like oh, you can do it but I can't, or you know how but I can't. Like no, just in general for basic needs, like everybody knew to grow their own food. So there's also been so many things that have happened to us as far as agriculture that there was never any restitution made to our relationship
mm,
with land and nature. So I think that's kind of why it's so shaky. Like we have a lot of us have a lot of trauma and pain attached to our relationship with land and nature and farming, honestly. Like we don't always have the best background. So and I don't want to say the best background, but um historically there was a point where there was a lot of trauma and pain that occurred on land. And I feel like we blamed land for what happened. Like land didn't
hmm,
hurt us. It was people that hurt us, not necessarily like the land itself didn't hurt us, but we kind of
exactly.
blamed the land. So, but yeah, that's one thing I really love is really really helping to mend our relationships with how we view nature and how we engage with nature and such, for sure.
Exactly, exactly. I love that. I love that. So, have you found gardening to be any benefit to your health? And if so, how can you say it's been any benefit?
Absolutely. So because of my work, I'm afforded to be able to. Oh, hold on a second. Omi, can you get out of here? My daughter then came in here.
Oh, you're
So
fine, honey.
because of my work, I'm afforded the luxury of being able to be out in the sun and get fresh air. And gardening is one of the things that really takes care of the whole body. Um, you can find mindfulness in gardening that takes care of your mental health. You can exercise that takes care of your physical health. You can, gardening can be a team building activity. So that's a way to build community, within your community or even your family. I like to tell people science tells us that there are certain microbes in soil that when you touch them, they have the same, effects on the body as like some of our modern day antidepressants. So in theory,
Mm,
somebody just touching soil could, change their mood or relieve stress. So, and I also like to say, like with my youth gardening, I remember kind of throwing the idea out there to, teachers and staffs and things like that. And a lot of people did not think that the kids would want to engage. They thought it would be
mm-hmm.
boring. They wouldn't want to engage. But ever since I started the two programs I have, they have the most engagement than any of the
Yes.
other enrichment classes. Children that typically have behaviors in school, they'll come to gardening and just be an absolute delight. But it's because they're able to play, they're able to, explore, they're able to kind of be themselves, like they're able to have
Mm-hmm.
fun, they're able to be out in the sun and run and jump and things like that. So absolutely. Oh.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that. Man, I noticed as well, just I don't I definitely plan to start gardening very soon.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
But just just spending time in nature in
Yeah.
general, like it I feel like it brings me back to myself.
Yeah.
Like who I truly am. Like, and I
Yeah.
also, like, you had brought up the fact of how, like, even touching
Mm-hmm.
soil gives you the same, like, healing benefits as if
Taking
anyone's
your pet.
taking a, yes.
Yep. Yep.
Whew.
Yep.
And it's crazy you said it, because it just be the simple things
Mm-hmm.
that we can do to even bypass the hard stuff in life. It's the simple stuff.
Yes, and
Mm.
I love to tell people too, like humans are kind of hardwired to find relief and restoration in nature-like settings. And that's actually why, a lot of our health facilities, hospitals, for example, have beautiful landscaping, plants everywhere, flowers everywhere,
Mm.
because they understand how people heal faster when they're around nature, how they, tend to relax more around nature. If you're relaxing, you can heal. So it's like
Yes.
there there's benefits. Trust me. Trust me. Uh-huh.
Yes, yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's a lot of times where, we don't, being in the the black communities, we don't see a lot of that. So it makes it really hard for us to get that healing that we need, because we're not around beautiful, landscaping and
It's
flowers and garden and
it's a
like our
reason. It's a
mhm.
reason why prisons don't have trees and flowers around. Like it's a reason why, because they don't want people to be better. They don't want people to be relaxed. They don't want people to be well. They
Oof.
don't want people to be, happy. I Now that I'm learning more about environmental racism, one thing I learned early on was how communities of color typically have 50% less trees than white communities, right? So then I got to thinking about my own life, and I'm like, wow, like Oakwood has beautiful trees and beautiful plants everywhere, and Inglewood has beautiful trees and beautiful plants everywhere. So it's like, okay, Oakwood has beautiful trees and plants. Dayton doesn't. Inglewood, which is right next door to us, has beautiful trees
Yeah.
and stuff. So it's like we were intentionally left out. Like they don't believe we deserve beautiful flowers and beautiful trees. And I learned that, people of color are like twice as likely to die from heat stroke because we don't have trees in our neighborhoods. So it's like a lot of things that we deal with are actually environmental issues and we just don't know it. So I even love I love talking about climate change with people. I like talking about I love bringing awareness to it because it's like
Yes.
we suffer so much from these issues, and often we don't be knowing the roots of it for real. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times the roots of things is like our environment. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Now, I love that you brought up um I want to say the racial difference
yeah,
in the environment.
yep.
Now, could you say that could you say, because my opinion is I feel as if that if we don't even care about the environment, why do we think that we're going to get it?
Right,
So I think that, and it's not our fault.
right.
We've been very subject to a lot of things that's been going on in the world.
Political
Uh
violence for sure.
yeah,
Political
there
violence, yes, for sure.
definitely, definitely. So, like, do you believe that maybe if we wanted to have better, we can actually get better? Like, if we was to
Absolutely.
able to like come together and build that community that we so called want, like could that actually happen?
I mean, it can. It's just, to me, in my opinion, it would be a shift of priorities. One thing I love about joining this environmental leadership program is one thing my teacher always talks about is how environmental issues most likely target and affect black and brown people, but we never see black and brown people in environmental justice programs. We never see them at city hall fighting for environmental issues and things like that. So I love but I love being a person of color, really, talking about, or not even talking about, but trying to find change for environmental justice
Yeah.
issues, but really speaking up about it. We are going to have to speak up about what we want and really fight for it. If
Yes.
nobody in our community cares about us not having trees, why would anybody else care about us not having
There you
trees?
go. Yep. Mhm.
Why? Like that. I mean, and there's funds out there for us to get trees. There's grants out there for us to get trees. But if there's nobody advocating for us in that way, it's almost like wanting something but not asking for it. Like wanting something but not opening your mouth. Like
Yeah.
closed mouths don't get fed. So yeah, yeah,
Exactly, exactly. I
yeah,
love it. I love it. That's exactly what I was thinking. So you hit the nail on the coffin with that one. I was trying to explain it the way you
yeah,
just said it, but exactly, if
yeah.
we're not wanting, if we don't, we say we want better, but what are we doing?
Right,
Are we putting actions behind what we're saying that we want?
right, right.
So yes,
And,
yes,
and
yes.
and while I'm thinking about it, I know that oh gosh, and I hate that I can't remember her name, but I want to say she's like a state representative or something. She was a speaker at this class I was at one day, and she said that one of the hardest things about fighting for environmental justice for our communities is how many organizations and people fight against her. So I think at one point she was like trying to get clean water or something in a specific area. And she was like, it's very logical and rational, for human beings to have, clean water. But she was like, we went to City Hall and there was an organization that came and they came with the facts and reports as to why this neighborhood should not have clean water and da 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 da. And it was a big old mess of going back and forth. So it really sometimes come down to, do people feel like we deserve
Mhm.
basic decency? Basic decency.
Ooh, wow. That
Yeah.
is deep. That's
Yeah.
deep. I'm glad. Thank you for bringing that up.
Hmm.
I hope that's something that's for people to really think about. Even not even just just because we're on the topic of gardening, agricultural in general, but just in our lives, like we have to know that we do deserve those things. Why
Right.
not? Why do we not deserve to have the finer things in life,
Yeah.
as they so called say it is, or show to us that it is? So
Right.
thank you for that. Now, why do you believe that gardening or just farming and learning how to grow your own food is imperative right now in the time that we are in?
Be- Communities of color have kind of always Well, not always. Hold on 1 second. Let me get my daughter.
No, you're fine. Hope you guys are enjoying the show.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So
You're
yeah,
fine.
so we've all been to the store in the last 2 years. You've seen the blank shelves. And I think I was hitting on before, communities of color have always, how can I say this? Starvation has always kind of been a method of wiping us out without actual
Ooh.
bloodshed. So historically, communities of color would be starved. Like, there hasn't always been grocery stores and restaurants and things like that. So if you couldn't grow food, you would essentially starve to death. That can very much so happen again now. If for whatever reason the grocery stores, restaurants close today, what are you gonna do? If you do not know how to grow your own food, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So, and us as Black and brown people, we already live in food desert communities. We already don't have grocery stores. We already don't have farmers markets. We already don't have fresh food. So if the stores and wherever we go to purchase food, if they don't have anything, it's like a double whammy for us. It's like
There
we
you go.
extra out of luck. So I hate to make blanket statements, and I don't know how to do this, but we have to prioritize us meeting our own basic needs: shelter, food, water. Shelter, food, and water. Like, otherwise, and I hate to say this, but otherwise a lot of people is gonna perish.
Ooh.
And it doesn't have to be like that.
It
Like,
doesn't.
the only reason that we're food insecure is because we don't know how to grow food. And it's crazy to me because we'll be on the phone all day, we don't be on YouTube all day. There's so many resources and articles and videos, and the information is out there. It's out there. Like, everybody eats, but very rarely do we grow food. That makes
Ooh.
no sense.
It
That makes
doesn't.
no sense. And the people that eat 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, that's gonna be coming to an end real soon. It really is. I don't know. I was looking at something the other day, and it was talking about how so many food warehouses or food production warehouses have been catching on fire,
Yeah,
or
I
all
seen
these
that.
things. It's only, and I don't think people know this, it's literally, and I'm sure this number is not right, but there's only like 5 or 6 big farms that really produce all the food we eat in America. So if all 5 or 6 of those farms, burn down, we really SOL.
Ooh.
We are out of luck.
Wow. Mm. That's deep. That's deep. Just to know that, like I stated before, how dependent that we are. We're very dependent to where if
Yes.
it did come down to that, and I mean, we like you just said, we can see that,
Yeah.
the stores are empty,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the plants, not the plants,
The
the
warehouses
places,
and
the
yeah.
warehouses are catching on fire.
Yeah.
Like, so what are we going to do when we don't have nowhere else to go to get our food? So it's imperative, just how you explain, how we need to learn how to do this. We can learn how to work TikTok. We can learn how to.
But we don't know how to put a seed in the ground, and how dependent we are. A lot of times, some of us live by laws, right? And the rules. There is
Yes.
no law that says you have to be fed today. There is
Mm.
no law out there that says the government has to feed you. There is no law out there that says if you don't know how to grow food, you can go here. There is no security net surrounding food security aside from literally learning food production. If stuff hit the fan, the government ain't about to send us no box of food. I doubt
Okay.
it. I doubt
Uh,
it.
Hold on, wait. And if they do, I don't know if I'm gonna trust it.
Baby, listen. So
Ooh.
I know, and something that I ponder a lot because I always question and I guess I make learning about agriculture and gardening kind of fun, but make it in a way to where it impacts more of our people, to really like get them like, hey, this is important, this is something we really need to be on. Not only do I want to grow my own food, but I want to share with the people in my neighborhood, so
Yes.
we have a variety of things. And but I don't know, and like I said before, like sometimes you can't figure out the answer to something right now. Maybe this is an answer I'm not gonna figure out for another year or so, I don't know, but that is something I ponder quite often.
Yeah, yeah. All I want to say to that to you is like keep doing what you're doing because man, I don't remember this scripture from the Quran. It was something just like as what will end up happening is that um the disbelievers will end up flocking,
Yep.
you know. They'll
Yep.
end up flocking eventually. Once
Yep.
they see it's real,
Yep.
oh yeah, it's
Yep.
real,
Yeah.
you know.
And
So
it's probably gonna take for Walmart and Kroger for them to literally lock down them doors and say no more. For people to be like, oh,
hmm
oh, okay,
they're gonna be like,
okay,
"Where's Jasmine at?"
right. Where's she at now? Where's she at now? Right.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, yes, I love it. So, now I heard you bring up the fact of how farming and just being in the garden has been impactful for children. Now, what are some positive outcomes you've seen when getting children involved and the youth, if you work with youth, involved in gardening?
The development of their social emotional skills. A lot of people, society is so hard on our children, yet rarely give them options and solutions for a lot of the things they're struggling with. Um, I love how sometimes the kids come to my class and they discover responsibility, right? So you have this living thing, you're responsible for it now. That teaches them
Mm,
responsibility. They learn caretaking, how to care for something, how to nurture something, wants and needs. What does this plant need? What does this plant want? It also teaches differences. This plant is very different from this plant. What this plant requires is something completely different from this plant. Same for people. This person might like this and need this, and need certain things to thrive and survive, versus this person over here who don't need that much. So
yeah.
learning differences. That social emotional learning how to be in relationship with other people, learning how to respect other people. Um and really dealing with our emotions. Sometimes in the garden, things could get crazy. Like sometimes it can be a rainstorm and the rain maybe pulled up some plants, or the wind pulled up some plants, or maybe we got a pest. But really dealing with the emotions that come with that can be very frustrating. That can be very disappointing. So really walking kids through that. Also problem solving. Again, there's always problems. I don't want to call them problems, but issues in the garden. So can we sort this out? Can we figure this through? Can we find a solution for our issue versus just sitting with the issue? I love getting kids active. So many people complain about how inactive our kids is. Getting them in the
hmm
garden, they gonna bust the sweat. Okay, it's gonna get real physical. So those are just some of the attributes. And again, the kids love it. Kids in general are already hardwired to find fun, outside like that. I always
Yes.
joke like it's so hard being my students' favorite teacher, but it's like it's so easy being their favorite teacher because we be outside for the lessons. So
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, I
yeah,
love it. I love it.
yeah,
I actually seen like my little cousin and they'll play out they just play outside and when
Mhm.
I say they just get into anything, you have
Yeah,
all these toys, but you want to
yeah,
play in the dirt. You want
yeah.
to dig holes in the dirt. You want to
And
play with worms and
and
I'm
I
like,
love
"What?"
it. I love it because the kids also, a lot of our kids are not allowed to discover. They're not allowed to explore. They're not allowed to go on an adventure. Like there's gonna be somebody like, hey, don't get dirty, or whatever the case. Giving them the opportunities to literally just discover.
Priceless.
And I
Mm,
love, like, I love giving the students like time to discover like the outside world. So hopefully like they want to discover like the inside, like themselves, and just other things. So yeah, just letting them like learn how to discover something, learn how to explore something, learn how to, experiment for real, like learn how to come up with the educated guess about something. Or I don't know. I also like to tell my students, like, we don't know what your passion is going to be, right? Like, we don't
yeah,
know if we're helping to raise the next LeBron James, or, great musician, next Stevie
yeah.
Wonder, or next great scientist or something like that. So even though I teach gardening and agriculture, I love to incorporate so many other things into like my curriculum and lesson plans. Like, even though this gardening, we gonna learn about music. Even though this gardening, we gonna learn about, construction. Even though this is gardening, we about to learn about art. Even though this is gardening, we gonna learn it about exercise and other things like that. But I have
Hmm.
found that gardening can kind of be a great umbrella for so many other things.
Wow, I love it. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Wow, I definitely, my son is only one, but and I'll be trying to get him in the grass and he just don't want to get his feet in the grass. But I know he's just a baby,
Yeah,
he
he
don't
just made.
understand stuff. But
Yeah.
I really want to incorporate that in his life as he gets older. I kind of want him to be his own person.
Yeah.
Which he is. He's
Yeah.
his own person. But I don't want to constrict him so much because we do think about and like you said, like we discussed before, it's just the our mentality and how we've been brought up. Just no, we don't want the children outside because we don't want them to get their shoes dirty or their
Right.
clothes dirty or stuff like
Yeah.
that. When actually, like this is something that it's like they need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wow, I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
it. So I had another question before we end today's show. You have
Sure.
been amazing. This
Thank
has been like,
you.
ooh, I just learned so much just by listening to you, and I can't wait to connect with you after the show because I really want to get with you in regards to learning more about gardening and
Absolutely.
stuff like that. So yes,
Absolutely.
yes. So now I think we already talked about this much, but I had this question. Could you say that Black people are targeted the most when it comes to not having access to real and wholesome food in our communities? If so, why?
It's not even a question at this point. Like, yes, we live it every day. That is our daily reality. Before we got Gem City Market, where could we go for fresh produce? And I never knew how much of an obstacle transportation was for the average family. If you didn't have a car, um if you don't have a car, you are more likely to get your food items from like a local convenience store. So, like a Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, things like that.
Hmm.
Because we are eating so much processed food, it's affecting our health. It's affecting our health by so many of people in our communities with high blood pressure, with diabetes, with respiratory issues. Why? Because of the food that we eat. Now, it's more than just the food that we eat, but the food that we eat plays a huge
Yes, it
part.
does.
It's not uncommon for Black and brown families to go their whole life without fresh veggies and fresh produce. It's not uncommon. And I was learning about redlining and how grocery stores can redline. Like, again, there is no law that says a grocery store has to open in your neighborhood, which is why they don't. A lot of grocery stores say that they don't open in Black and brown communities because of the profit margins, like they won't be able to make money or whatever. We know that's not true. We know that's
Mm,
not true.
yes.
And I mean, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but a lot of Black and brown communities receive SNAP benefits. Those are guaranteed benefits every single month. So if this community is having SNAP benefits and that's how they're paying with their food, you're gonna get your money. You're gonna get your money.
Exactly.
So it's not about money. It's, again, decision makers feeling like us getting what we deserve. Oh, you don't deserve fresh produce. You don't deserve fresh produce. That's why we don't have fresh produce, because they feel like we don't deserve it. And then again, there's nobody. I need to stop the bank things. It's not that there isn't anyone. It's not a lot of people advocating in our communities for us to have fresh veggies. When was the last time you heard somebody saying, hey, this community over here, we need to get fresh veggies just like in Kettering and Oakwood? We have to tell them what we want. We have to fight for the things that we want. And I hate that. Like, I hate that we have to fight all the time for like basics.
Yeah.
But sometimes that is what it is. Sometimes it is like that. But I do, like, if you look at a map of grocery stores in Ohio, you will see that there is 10 times more grocery stores in Kettering and Inglewood than there is in Dayton. That is very intentional. Grocery stores are a private business. They are not public. So, yeah. Yep.
Ooh.
Yep. Yep.
That was so deep, sis.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you for that. Thank you for that. Now, I did have a end question for you. Now, what advice do you have for anyone who wants to start gardening or grow their own food?
Um, I would say really look at what your family likes to eat, and that way you'll know what to grow. So like, don't be growing beets and carrots if your family don't really eat beets and carrots. If your family
Mm-hmm.
loves peppers and tomatoes and stuff, grow that. Also introducing your family to fruits and veggies. I know that's kind of been a toughie for me over like the last 2 years or so, but really getting my kids on board with eating healthy foods and finding out,
Yes.
ways to really make them taste good so they can like them. Gardening is not that hard, to be honest. There are certain things that are a little more complex to grow, but the basics that we typically eat, not so much. YouTube is great. On YouTube, I have a home gardening tutorial. It goes over a lot of the basics as far as which pot to use, which soil to use, how to get seeds to, germinate. And that's on my YouTube page. But you don't even have to just look at me. Just put in home gardening on YouTube. There's so many videos there. Really just researching. Or you know what? Let me even backtrack. A person really coming to this decision of, hey, this is what my family is doing and we're gonna do it. Because a lot of people talk about starting gardens and wanting to start a garden and wanting to eat better. When are we gonna do it? Like, it's today,
Mm.
it's tomorrow today, it's next week today. So really, like, get putting a date on it, putting a
Yes.
date on it for real, and getting your whole family on board. Once you really have it in your head and heart that this is what you're gonna do, you're gonna research, you're gonna go to the library to get books, you're gonna look at, where you can get fresh food in your community versus going to Kroger. It's really gonna be like a internal, yes, this is what we're doing, a change of life in a way, for real. Like, hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually done with this type of, produce and offering these things to my family. So there, coming to the decision that you're gonna do it,
Yes.
and really just researching. And it's not that hard. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, on a pack of seeds, when you buy a pack of seeds, they'll give you directions like, okay, this is seed, and this size pod, and this is when it
Mm-hmm.
should be like able to harvest. So people really understand it's not as hard as they probably think it is. It's
Yeah.
really not that hard. It's not. Yeah.
Yes, yes, sis.
Yeah.
Wow. That was so amazing. You
Mhm.
came with some facts, you came with some jewels, and I
Yes.
love it. Yes.
Yes.
So I would like to thank you again for joining
Absolutely.
me today, Miss Stewart, in
Absolutely.
discussing the topic of the healing powers of farming. I will also like to thank my amazing healing tribe for joining us today. I pray today's episode was informative and valuable to you all. Also, be sure to give us a feedback, share, and subscribe on any of your favorite podcast stations and on my YouTube channel, Heal with Angelica Waters Podcast. Also, check out my ebooks on health and wellness. I have an ebook available now with powerful content called Heal with Fruits and Vegetables, only for $10,
Okay.
including some of many merchandises like Eat to Live shirt and Heaven Equal Woman shirts in the link in the description. I will also include my guest information where you can follow up and or reach out to today's guest,
Yay.
Miss Jazmon Stewart. Miss Stewart, before we end today's show, do you have any closing remarks for our audience today?
Yes, thank you so much again for inviting me here. If you are interested in gardening and just maybe have a couple questions or concerns, you can email me. I would love to help. You can email me at support@iThriveDayton.com. You can check out my YouTube channel. Again, there is a home gardening tutorial on there that will help you jumpstart your journey. You can check out my website, www.iThriveDayton.com. I offer a few products, fresh eggs. I'll be having my fresh produce on there as soon as it's ready to harvest soon. Yeah, and just be in touch. I would love to connect. If you're, interested in gardening, just hit me up. Hit me up.
Yes, Miss Stewart. Yes, yes. Again, I like I say, thank you so much. And until next time, everyone, peace and blessings.